Hi everybody, welcome back to our channel. My name is Naz.
And I'm Alba, and we're currently in London, UK. In this video, we're gonna be taking you through how much we spend in a month and how much it costs basically to live in London.
If you're moving to London anytime soon, or you know anyone who's moving to London, this video will probably help you out define how much you'll approximately spend in a month in London. Before we give you the breakdown, you might just want to check out this calculator that we've built. In this calculator, you'll be able to plug the data regarding your stay in London and get an approximate view of how much it costs in your specific case to live in London. So let's get right into it.
The first category, of course, it's housing. So we specifically are currently crashing with a friend, so our housing costs are fairly low. But if you've looked at housing in the recent months in London, you will know that it's crazy.
It's really expensive nowadays to rent. A one bedroom will cost you approximately
1,500, a minimum of 1,500 pounds per month, because if you do go to the central areas, if you start looking in more popular areas, they will probably one bedroom start at 2,000 pounds per month. So this is also something that you need to keep in mind. It totally depends on the area that you want to live, but we'll leave a screenshot here of what are the average prices in London per bedroom.
You also need to know that if you rent a room in a flat share, which is very common in London, you will end up looking at prices around £900. Yeah. Of course, then there's additional costs such as electricity, Wi-Fi, even council tax.
Yeah. Now, council tax is a local tax that, depending on the area where you live, basically you need to pay. And it also changes depending on how big the house is where you live and how many people live in it.
And the location as well.
Yeah, I said.
The more central you are, the more expensive it's going to be. The bigger the house, the more expensive it's going to be. The council tax can range between £60 and normally £150 per month. So it really depends.
On top of that, of course, you need to add bills. Within bills, depends on what type of suppliers your house has, but usually you have water, gas, and electricity. Some houses don't have gas. And bills lately have gotten quite pricey, but it depends also on the kind of house that you live in. So if you live in an older house, you're most likely going to be spending more in electricity than if you live in a newer house that has, you know, more efficient electricity systems.
Some modern buildings in London have such an efficient electricity grid that it costs you maybe £50 a month, £70 a month, even with the increased costs nowadays. So keep an eye out for that. Sometimes you're paying a little bit more in rent, but you pay less in utility bills. Yeah.
In the house that we're currently staying, it's an older house and it's a 2-bedroom. We are paying electricity about over 150 per month. And it is an older house, so you can see how different the prices can be between different types of buildings.
And the last thing you need to know about accommodation is deposit. Now, when you normally sign a lease agreement for a house in London, you will pay a deposit that goes up to 6 weeks worth of rent. Some landlords decide to charge a little bit less. Some landlords decide to not charge at all and charge a fee instead. However, the ballpark estimation is 6 weeks of rent.
Yeah.
Which is then returned to you at the end. I forgot to mention that.
That's right. That's why it's called a deposit, unless you've destroyed the house, in which case they'll probably keep it to fix it. But don't worry, if you are getting overwhelmed by all of this information, you can go and check it out on matuto.com. This is our startup that we built to help people move abroad, starting with moving to the UK and moving to London. You can create an account for free, and once you've signed up, you can access all of this advice in regards to housing, home bills, and you'll be able to access the different links and we have multiple calculators that will help you calculate your council tax depending on the area where you choose to live, understand the different prices per neighborhood in London. So if you are planning to move, make sure to sign up. The second category, and something that obviously Londoners spend a lot of money on, is transport. And the reason for that is most people don't really have cars in London. Everything is far away, so you are expected to travel. We're currently spending about £8.50 per person per day every time we go into Central, and we are taking the train, which is one of the most expensive modes of transport, but taking into account how expensive it is to live in the center, I think this is a pretty normal commute for most people.
If you're lucky enough to be by zone 2, max zone 3, and you can go to work by bus, do it. Because a bus journey is 175
Yeah.
And that takes your cost of commuting down to less than £4 a day.
Yeah.
Whereas a normal commute price for people who take the tube, which is the most common one, can go up to £7-8 per day.
Yeah. So obviously keep this in mind. It totally depends how many days you go into the center. For us, we're going between 4 to 6 times a week. So it is quite a high cost. But we counteract it with our accommodation costs, so just keep that in mind.
Now the third biggest category is grocery. If you live in London, if you live anywhere really, you're gonna have to go to the supermarket. And in our case in specific, we're quite modest with our shopping. We don't buy like the biggest brands. We're okay with like white label brands, and we shop once a week. We cook at home mostly, and for 2 people it's costing us between £200 and £250 a month.
Yeah.
For people who like to sprinkle it with a little bit more sauce, cook a little bit with more flavor to it, maybe it'll go up to 300,
which I think is pretty good. I do think that the cost of food hasn't risen as much in the UK as it has in other countries around Europe. So I do find the cost of food quite good, especially if you're cooking. If you are eating out though, that is another story. The reason we cook at home is because we find it much more cost efficient. Eating out in London has gotten really expensive lately. Eating out at places like Wasabi or Coco for pasta is gonna cost you at least £7 per meal per person, and if you're eating out your lunch every day of the week, it can get really expensive.
What I would recommend is for you to get a Tesco Club card or a Nectar card for Sainsbury's and take advantage of those meal deals. They're very, very cheap. They're like £3.50 if you have the cards. And you can also take advantage of offers that they have. We do that a lot and we end up saving easily £30-40 a month.
Obviously, we like to go out to a restaurant every once in a while, and London is definitely very pricey for that. So we don't do it that often, maybe once a month, 2 times a month if we're going with friends. And usually we spend, when we do that, between £20 to £40 per person. Depends on the level of restaurant that you're going to. So that is something that, depending on your habits, you might want to calculate into your costs. But there are other types of leisure prices and costs that you're going to have when you move to London.
For example, going to the gym. A lot of people will care about their fitness levels. We do. Right now we're not going to the gym, which actually shame on us. But it will cost you between what, £25 to £50. London gyms can be quite expensive, especially in the city. You will find memberships of upwards £100 a month. But of course, you can go to the cheapest option, which is £25-30.
And then the final layer of costs of leisure totally depends on the things that you like to do. So a lot of people like going out for a coffee. Grabbing a coffee out can cost you around £4 every coffee that you have. So if you go every day, again, it's gonna get really expensive. But there are also plenty of free things to do in London. The most famous museums like the National History Museum, the National Gallery and the British Museum are all free. So those are really fun things that you can do on the weekends. But if you do instead prefer to go partying, you better have deep pockets because it is quite expensive to go out in London. I think one drink in a bar will cost what, £10? Average of £10, and going into a club, it can cost you £20-30 per ticket depending on where you're going.
Honestly, it can get very, very expensive very fast in London if you go out. I speak from personal experience.
Yeah, and then add on top of that the cost of the Uber to get back home. You will only want to go out once a month max. If it is something that you like doing, just make sure that maybe you live by a tube station that runs like a night line, because like I said, transport costs if you get Ubers every night can get really expensive.
But now we're going to do something that excites me quite a bit. We're going to take you through this calculator in specific, and we're going to put a random examples case for you to see exactly how much it spits out to be. Now of course this is not a straight science, it's always going to vary a little, but it's going to give you a ballpark estimation.
So let's say I am a mother of 1 kid and I am moving to London with my husband. I will need a 2-bedroom flat to rent, and of course there will be 3 people living in the apartment. I will be commuting to Central, let's say 3 times per week, and I want to live within zone 1 and 3. In terms of leisure, I want to subscribe to the gym, and I like grabbing coffee out a couple times per week. And I also like going out for dinner with my partner a couple of times per week. So I calculate my expenses and it comes out to $3,333 per month, including the average rent for a 2-bedroom apartment, the house bills and groceries for 3 people, the transport for those 3 days going to the office, and the cost of those leisure activities I have selected.
That's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you guys found it useful. If you're moving to London or to the UK in general, don't forget to sign up to matuto.com. We're gonna be there to support you every step of the way.
If you enjoyed, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more London tip videos. Let us know in the comments what it is that you want to see next. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.